The thoughts we have in our head are the only things we can control. That is it. You can control nothing else around you. The only point of power is the thoughts that you think. And so if you know this and you want a really good life, you got to control your thoughts, and it's fun to do. And so that's a thought revolution to me.
Media personality and talk radio show host Shaun Proulx has a great big heart, and he shares a piece of it with us here on the Free Your Inner Guru podcast. When we sat down to record, we had a list of topics and found that neither one of us felt like speaking about anything other than our thoughts and feelings about current events this week, with the loss of two highly talented creators like Spade and Anthony Bourdain. Shaun opens up about his own experience living a public life and what led him to create the thought revolution, not just for himself, but his dedication to sharing the power of living with intention with others. Welcome to Free Your Inner Guru. My name is Laura Tucker, your host, and here today I'm welcoming Shaun Proulx. Shaun is a friend, and he hosts the weekly Sirius XM talk show, The Shaun Proulx Show, on Canada Talks, Channel 167. And before he became the media and entertainment personality he is today, Shaun has a varied background. He spent 8 years in finance. He achieved significant success before the age of 30, at which point he realized that he wasn't passionate about what he was doing with his time or his life, at which point he made some big decisions. And we're here to talk about Shaun's journey today, from financial advisor in his early 30s to what he's doing now. And we've got we've both had what we would call an interesting week, and we want to share a conversation inspired by current events. And so Shaun, just welcome to the podcast. Let's introduce you to the audience.
Hello, thank you so much. I'm listening to the intro you gave me, the very nice intro you gave me. Thank you. And I smile to myself because you say I achieved significant success in finance, and I think about that and I wonder whether I did, because the success that I achieved there was certainly monetary, and certainly success because I failed grade 10 math. So I really had no business telling people what the numbers meant. But the week that we've had includes that awful news about Spade committing suicide, and people really reacted to that. And then today, as on this taping day of yours, Anthony Bourdain, we find out also committed suicide. And so it just sort of dovetails really nicely with what I know we're going to talk about. The idea of what is success, and the idea that a lot of people are living by society's idea of success, and that's not good enough. And I think a lot of people question, how could people like Spade and Anthony Bourdain die by suicide, because they seem to have it all, right? Glamour, the illusion of happiness, money, fame, freedom, and a life of fun, and billions of other people out there don't have any of that. Aren't they happy? And I'm in the happy business, so I'm so happy to be here and talk about this today.
I found this morning when I turned on the television, and given that the date this is Friday, June the 8th, so we're right in the aftermath of a significant election where Shaun and I live. So I turned on the news expecting to be feeling discouraged by the election result. And then when I read on the ticker about Anthony Bourdain, it got all of my attention, because it's not like I know him personally, and I don't often identify with celebrity, but in my perception, given that travel and photography and fine wine and food and all of what he does and shared in his work is looks like a dream to me from the outside. And it's exactly, what you were just saying. And as I thought about it through the morning, when I was more emotionally affected than I expected, I came up with, to be at that end of the spectrum and accumulate that kind of success, or be able to have that type of lifestyle that's desired by many, including me, what must the contrasting experience be? What must that inner experience be? And Shaun, you've made some big changes in your life to follow your heart, and you must have experienced contrast there as well in order to motivate that. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I have experienced contrast, and I think a lot of people don't realize what the give up is. I'll call it the give up. When you have a public life, for example, privacy, something that we all take for granted a lot, becomes taken away. You can't do you the way you used to do you anymore. I have experienced that in my career and in my life, and you can't normally have some of the normal, and we take our normal for granted as well. And I think one of the questions a lot of people are asking is, like, if we know that death by suicide is a mental illness, you're so depressed and overwrought, and I'm no doctor, but I do know that you would take your life. How do you get that when you seem to have all of this? And I think it's still about what we were talking about a minute ago. Who are you playing your life for? Are you playing it for yourself and making up the rules for you in your life? Or are you playing it by society standards? Do you ignore your heart's fondest desires? You talked about my successful career in finance. I was making six figures. I bought a house at 27 on my own. Did I want to do that, or did I want to have a creative life? And a creative life with all of its contrast, as you said, that's embedded in that. And then a creative life, if you achieve some kind of modicum of success, therefore it's a public life suddenly, you give up so much along the way. So you never know where your next paycheck is coming from unless you have successfully structured a business, which I believe I have done and do. But then you still have all kinds of problems that are all yours to manage along the way. And so for people who are in a 9-to-5, steady paycheck, wish that they had more than 2 weeks vacation, wish that someone else wasn't telling them their value. This other stuff looks really, really good, but it comes with a high price. Everything is commensurate, I believe. When you step out, the greater the risk, the greater the reward. So someone like Kate Spade, Anthony Bourdain, taking great risks in their life, risks that would scare me. And a lot of times, it's not easy being an Anthony Bourdain. It looks fun on TV, but that's not easy. That is not easy. And Kate Spade and all the people she had to count to, and all of the pressures that she was under, it might just look like a bag, but there's a lot more behind that bag than we'll ever know, that only Kate Spade ever knew.
Can you share with us some of your own journey that allows you to identify with this so closely?
Of course. The first thing that comes to mind is when I was diagnosed HIV in 2005, I lived with that alone as a matter of privacy. For example, I did not want to become the HIV positive radio host. I did not want to be the HIV positive columnist. I did not want to be the HIV anything. not out of shame. I was very at peace with that, and I acquired HIV by having sex the same way everybody who's ever had sex listening to this has, at least once, without a condom, without protection. So there's no shame there. But I just didn't want the label. I just wanted to be Shaun. And, years go by, and eventually something that you do for privacy begins to carry the weight of a secret. And so that is a good example of the kind of thing that you just have to manage, that nobody knows you're managing. And when I came out publicly, it was tied into being the chair that year of the 25th anniversary of the Scotiabank AIDS Walk for Life. And I was doing a lot of work with the main benefactor of the AIDS community of Toronto. And I was around a lot of people who were also HIV positive, and I couldn't believe the stigma and self-imposed and heaped on them by others that these people had for being HIV. And like I said, I had no shame. So I decided to come out because I've got a very good life. I'm the happiest guy I know. And I wanted to say to people that you don't have to be stigmatized. And I wanted to put a face to someone who was leading a very good life. When I came out, though, so it was on CBC. Ooh. I nearly bolted from the studio, from the live show that I was on.
Oh, no.
Because the weight of a secret is so much, and you realize what you're carrying around. I was so nervous to say the words for the first time publicly, and I don't get nervous. And it really told me, wow, you really were living with something that was powerful within you. And so people with that level of success, that's just a really small example. People with that level of success have a lot of that kind of stuff going on all the time. And I also know that as someone with a much smaller business than say, Kate Spade, that and any entrepreneur out there who has a team is going to relate to this. You carry the burden of other people's rent, other people's mortgages, other people's car payments, other people's everything. And that's, again, small stuff. I also don't feel that I necessarily get to lead as a single gay man currently, the life of a more private single gay man. So that is to say, if I have a gentleman caller, quite frequently they know me. When if it's a blind date, they know me, and so you're never sort of like 100% comfortable with it. Doesn't, you don't get to start a relationship on a level playing field. They know who you are. You don't know them, and there's a trust issue that comes up suddenly. What can I say? What can I do? Who can I be? And you don't get to be yourself. That's it. You don't get to be yourself.
And that's so interesting.
But there's your answer. You don't get to be yourself.
This is so fresh for me. Just a couple of days ago, I went and did an interview for another podcast, and this is very, very new and very uncomfortable for me, not going on another podcast. I love getting out and talking to people, but it was more, and even when I went on your show last year, we've since discovered and talked that it's the actual talk that's fine. It's fun. It's great. But then when I walk in the door and they say something to me like, oh, we've been all over your website and been listening to your podcast for hours. We feel like we know you. And then the immediate reaction is, well, what do you think you know? It's almost an automatic defense that goes up, because it's until I become comfortable with this and just assume that, hey, this is going to be fine. And now I get to ask questions and I get to cultivate that relationship. But there's in being visible and some of the choices I've made around visibility, because I too had something I used to try to hide, and which was my shame and experience in the Sedona Sweat Lodge. And pardon me?
I talked about it on my show.
Totally. And that was one of the first times that I had talked about it, where somebody was interviewing me to hear what my experience had been. And the vulnerability around that is huge, and it brings up all kinds of stuff.
You say vulnerability, and I was just thinking what the fastest way to say what I took a bit of time to say is living vulnerably. People are watching you. People are paying attention to you. People are judging you. And you really have to, I used to be an eye contact person walking down the street. I don't look at anybody anymore. There's a weird thing that goes on with anyone who's got a job in the public. It doesn't have to be in media or entertainment. Anyone who's a public figure in any way knows exactly what I mean when I say living vulnerably. People grab you and start thinking they can start talking to you and telling you what they think of things. I've written things before that I've gotten death threats over not tons of things like that, but and I certainly would never read the comment section after anything that I wrote or that was published somewhere, because that in itself is just a slippery slope. The good stuff is never good enough. The bad stuff keeps you awake at night. And to have a career that was creative like Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade means that they were creatives, and creatives are sensitive. And so in my line of work, I'm super sensitive. In my line of work, I don't touch any of that stuff at all, because it's a weird orbit that they lived in, and I feel for both of them, and that idea of, but they had it all. It keeps playing in my mind a lot today. A lot of people think that they had it all. I don't think a lot of people are realizing that might have been nothing in the grand scheme of things to them.
Well, it speaks to some of what you wrote today and shared on your blog, which I will put links in the show notes here, right back to Shaun's website and this beautiful article that he wrote. And you said, you get to the state when death seems better than life, when you play your life by the rules of others instead of rules you set for you. You get there when you measure your success by society's standards, ignoring your heart's fondest desires.
I'm talking about how the state of depression or of absolute over it. I've never been so close to wanting to kill myself to properly you describe it. But to be there, you have to have day by day, thought by thought, action by action, just drained yourself to the point where the best thing you could do for yourself is to kill yourself, because we always choose things in life that are going to make us feel better. And everything we want in life is because we think we'll feel better. And when what will make you feel better is to end your life, that's a place of arrival that you get to, and you are not living life your way. And certainly I'm not negating other things like chemical imbalance. I'm not negating all the different components of it. But I find that, you talk about my example of working in finance. I said I was making six figures. When I left my first year, I made $15,000. And that was not through creative work. That was through a bit of creative work, but that was through side jobs. And then I had a cushion. I had about a 7-month cushion. So I had that. But a lot of people would not have done what I did. They would have stuck with the first option, staying in finance and making six figures. I have recently interviewed a workplace expert who estimates that only 25% of people who hold jobs love their jobs. Anything after that, there's that middle section where they're okay with it, it's good. And then there's the section of hate their jobs. But to me, I gotta love what I'm doing every single day. My dad died in front of me when I was 17, and I've only come recently to realize the impact that had on me, because he was 49 years old at the time. I'm 49 now, and I don't know why it took me so long, because I've lived so much of my life now from the standpoint that tomorrow is not a promise. But I didn't realize, when you see your dad die in front of you, maybe that has something to do with it. But, we take for granted that tomorrow is a guarantee. And I don't want to die and have a single regret. And I can tell you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that staying in finance, because it was pleasing to everybody, sounds good on a business card, vice president, this is who I am. Your mother's pleased, your partner's pleased, your bank account's pleased. You can go out and buy things you think you're pleased. I bought something, Laura, once a day in finance. I went shopping once a day. I came home with a pretty bag every single day. And I realized when I was looking at this activity, this habit, this crutch, this tonic, this self-medication that I was doing, that I couldn't do that anymore, because tomorrow was not a promise. And there were things I was good at. I had only ever been good at a couple things. I'm a good communicator, writer, speaker. I was good on stage. And so I wanted to be the things I was good at, and that made me joyful every day. And I've come to realize that we're here for joy. We're here for joy. Nothing less will do. And you're not your job title. You're not the dollar figure in your bank account. You're not where you live, who you wear, or what school your kids go to. You are here to be joyful.
So would you describe then your state overall is one of joy?
I can look back at the trajectory of my life since I made the move that I did, and tell you that on the whole, I have led a joyful life, even when the chips were down. And I don't have a quiet life by any means. And there's difficulties and challenges all the time, like everybody. But I think a lot of people, they look at their trajectories, they have not been happy. I've had a life that's rich in adventure, experience. I have met my heroes. See, I'm getting choked up just tell you that. I have made my dreams come true, and then some. And the best part of making your dreams come true is then you stand at this new vista where you can look out and decide what's next.
This is so, I think there's two things here that I want to uncover with you. And because I find myself saying this to people, we don't have to know, and by people, I mean myself as well, because I require a certain amount of self-talk. But I think sometimes we get paralyzed by not knowing what the end looks like, and it's not until we take action that's in alignment. I know you and I both like talking about what alignment is, aligned action. Can we shift a bit into that for a bit? As far as somebody's listening to this is two people here who are usually all rah, rah, and are in quite a thoughtful, serious mode at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
When you Can you remember a time where you were looking at what the next step was and you were afraid?
My husband left me, and he there was not a lot of warning. Let's just put it that way. It was very Carrie Bradshaw post-it note for Sex and the City people out there. A very unexpected thing. And he was also my business manager at the time. So I was down a husband and down a business manager. And I didn't know how I was going to heal on an emotional level and keep my business going, bearing in mind that everything I do, all the content I put out, the radio show, web stuff, speaks, is all based on the idea that happiness is the truth. And so I don't write a lot or speak a lot about bad news and stuff. I'm in the happy business. So I got to keep my happy business going, as well as, and from the business standpoint. So he was making things happen, deals, money, he was bringing things in. So how am I going to get all that going? And that's the one example I can recall when I felt some fear for a minute. But I don't dabble in fear too much. But I had to get in alignment when I felt that fear, for sure.
How do you know when you're in alignment versus being out of alignment?
Your emotions. Your emotions are your inner guidance system. Your emotions are your GPS. When you are feeling negative emotion, that is your GPS telling you are thinking thoughts that do not match up, or not in alignment with who you really are. Because who you really are is already enjoying the solution that you have created when you noticed the problem. So when I knew I was down with Patrick, having left me in more ways than one I was down, I felt the negative emotion of fear. What am I going to do? And my alignment was to begin to have thoughts that were real and not Pollyanna, yippee skippy, but to soothe myself out of that fear. So I like the idea of a solution coming my way. I like the idea of this working out. Things always work out for me. And just talking to myself like that, that's the way the guy who has the solution coming to him on that problem is thinking, not in fear. And so I thought, I worked my way back into alignment. Alignment is just keeping up with yourself, because every time you see something, like you had to desire something or a problem comes or whatever, you've created the solution or the manifestation of what it is you want. And so you have to think the thoughts of the person who has that, and then that's when the matchup happens and the solution or the desire manifests. And so that's all alignment is, and I believe in that with my whole heart. And back to Kate and Anthony, there must have been so much malalignment in their lives. Someone who does what they did is not aligned at all.
I know myself, when I am not in alignment, sometimes it can be very, very confusing. You know, for example, in my business, I love what I do. I love serving the people that I coach. I love getting out and speaking. I love podcasting. And every single time I'm in the action of doing it, I know it's the right thing because I feel great while I'm doing it. And I think that, and I see this in other people too, there are various aspects of the business that I don't love so much. So then I look at, how am I feeling while I'm doing that? Noticing that maybe the way I'm doing it just isn't for me. So getting creative and finding ways to do that. That's all a part of the creativity of a business too.
Yeah, and I also have come to understand, and this is very soothing for me, that when you're creating something, it's not a platitude. The joy is in the ride. And the ride, you didn't want a smooth ride. Can you imagine if every street had no corner, no turn, no hill, and you're driving? You came here to get your hands in the mold of the clay, and that's messy stuff. But boy, does it ever feel good getting clean again. But boy, does it ever feel good getting back in that clay again. And so I think people label parts of the ride that they don't like wrong, or we use the word should. This should not be this way. And without that contrast, you don't have anything measurable in terms of feeling. And that means that you don't know what you like and what you don't like. And when you know what you don't like, well, as soon as you say you don't like that, you sort of create, there's a solution. The world is now, this is a yes-based world. The law of attraction is the manager of the world, just like gravity is the manager of us all staying down on the ground. And it goes into fast mode. It conspires in your favor to create the agent for you, or the assistant for you, or whatever. And someone in alignment lines up with that, and someone out of alignment does not. But the point is, when you have that, if you can attain that, your business that you want to grow just got that bigger and better, and you get the speaking gigs you love and more of them because of the thing you saw that you did not like. So we have to take those things that we don't like and appreciate them, because those are the things that give birth to the improvements in our lives. It's not the things that we love that we want to improve. We love them. It's the things we don't like. So we have to bless the things we don't like.
Absolutely. And I like taking a spirit of experimentation to it, that nothing is written in stone, because that gives you the opportunity to say, hey, this way is not for me. I'm going to find another way.
Yeah. You go to the buffet at with the sneeze guard on it. You don't, and you see beets, pickled beets. You don't want them. You don't sit there going, oh my God, the pickled beets. You just don't take it. You don't take it. Do you know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean. Can I tell you a story, which is hilarious and sad at the same time?
Oh God! You know what? This is the week for a good laugh and a good cry. I will say.
Absolutely. So when you're talking about not eating the pickled beets, and I was probably, 12 years old. I was at a friend's place, and they had olives out at the table with a whole family gathering over. And so I went to the family gathering. I was there playing at the house, and in front of a whole room of adults, I was offered olives, and I was pretty darn sure that I didn't like olives, and then got pressured and that, to try the olive. And fundamentally, I think I'm a pleaser. So imagine the 12-year-old version of me. So I capitulated, took the thing that I knew I didn't like, and just about gagged on it in front of all these people who thought it was hilarious. But to this day, I remember it whenever someone is saying to me, try this, you'll like it. That pressure that was building up in my body that I didn't listen to that day, much to the entertainment of, a clan that wasn't mine. I remember that now. And anytime I feel that similar feeling, it's like, thank you, but no.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So, I mean, the little kid in you could have been someone who's like, well, I'm only sticking to what I know, or I'm never, but you took that and you realized that that's your inner guidance system, and to always trust that. And I love a woman who uses the word capitulating and clan in the same sentence.
Well, thank you, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what it was. I mean, it was so much. It was a full-blown, because you got to know me a little bit now. Now you can imagine how stuck in I could get if I wanted to.
Well, and shame on those adults, because what adults, and I have an olive story. It's not just similar to yours. I tried it. I didn't like it. everyone thought was funny. But you don't offer the child's taste buds are not developed enough to enjoy the olive. Now today, I like an olive. Do you like an olive?
No, lifelong.
I love a nice olive.
That's how stressful that was for me, right? But so this is, we both like to talk about this inner guidance system.
Yes.
You talk about it within your thought revolution. I talk about it as our inner guru. Can you tell us? Can you share with me and the listeners what the thought revolution means to you?
Oh, the thought revolution, and it's funny that we're coming around this way, was something that I came up with after I came out with my HIV. I'm undetectable, by the way. I'm not even HIV positive anymore. It's undetectable, which is a whole different other thing. But I said something in the interview that hit home for countless people. I got so many emails, letters, tweets, posts. The people at CBC were like, this is such a powerful thing that you said. I saw HIV as a metaphor for all the beating up that we do to each other and to ourselves. Fat hips, divorced, low bank balance, not successful enough, all of the shaming that we do. And I was talking about that, and that I thought it was time that we stop stigmatizing our humanity. Mm-hmm. And the words thought revolution came out because I know that I'm a high school dropout. I've got no college education. I'm not trained in any of the things that I do for a living. And I know that the only thing I've ever done that has proven to be consistently successful is that the thoughts I think on the subjects that are important to me create the reality around the subjects that are important to me. And we can break our lives down into, 4 quadrants, I guess you would call it. Money, health, general well-being, and relationships. And I'm good in some subjects and I'm not so good in other subjects. And in those subjects, when I have turned my thoughts into aligned thoughts on the subject, that subject improves. And science measures our thoughts in hertz, they call it. And positive thoughts emit higher hertz than negative thoughts. And thoughts are vibrational in nature, and vibration attracts vibration, and everything is vibration, and vibration has to attract matching vibration. So you literally, and everything is vibrational. Color, sound, the chair you're sitting on, everything is vibrational. And so if you understand that and you want a really good life, and I do, you realize that you want to have a thought revolution about the subjects that are important to you. You want to tend to your garden every day and think the thoughts that make you feel really good. And if you're thinking thoughts about a subject that make you feel awful, you're waiting for that check to arrive, you're waiting for that partner to come, you're waiting for that new job, or you're waiting for that awful boss to go, you are not thinking thoughts that are serving you. We terrorize ourselves with our thoughts. And we're terrible to ourselves with our thoughts. And our life is indicative of what we're thinking. You listening to this right now, know where you think well and know where you think poorly on the subjects that are important to you. And the thoughts we have in our head are the only things we can control. That is it. You can control nothing else around you. The only point of power is the thoughts that you think. And so if you know this and you want a really good life, you got to control your thoughts, and it's fun to do. And so that's a thought revolution to me. And I like the word revolution. Said that in the interview, and it stuck. It stuck, and it became the basis of my work. Is to think. It's not Pollyanna, yippee, skippy, positivity stuff, but you cannot have negative thoughts, negative emotions, and expect a great life. You just can't. And people around you who complain a lot, and their life matches that. And then they complain some more, and their life matches that. And then people who seem to have it all, and their life is one because they thought the thoughts that they're thinking that match that life.
What do you do? What do you do to cultivate that, Shaun? I think the practical aspect of this is that it's one thing to sit and talk about it, but it quite another to live it, and maybe easier for some than others.
It goes back to a lot about what we were talking about, with Spade and Bourdain. You're living your life for you, as far as I'm concerned. And if you're not, you need to really step back and think about that, because that's what happens when you're not living your life. You got to live your life for you. So let's just make that the basis. And I'm in it to win it. Be in it to win it. And if people have tuned out by now, if they're not interested in this, I'm going to just assume everybody by this point is interested in living the life, the best life that they possibly can. So if you're in it to win it, like I am, you make the commitment to yourself. You're no good to your children and to your career and to your friends and to the things that matter to you if you don't fill yourself up every day. And so most days of mine begin by tuning my dial. And it's very simple. I'm a journaler, and I suggest you become a journaler too if you're not. Get a nice pad, pen, and make it a daily ritual that you write down the things that you're appreciating in life, the things that you're eagerly anticipating. Write down the things that you love. Make a love list every day. Appreciation has such a high vibration. It is the closest thing to love. And so if you are in a state of appreciation, you are vibrating in such a way that you attract more to appreciate. A lot of people say, well, you know what? Show me the money, Shaun, and then I'll appreciate. And it's the other way around. The universe wants to appreciate it. Start appreciating. When I first started doing this, and I've been doing this for as long as I've been, when I left finance, I started doing this because I was so committed to this career to be. If I was going to leave a 6-figure job, I was not going to. Can we swear on this podcast?
You betcha.
Fuck it up. I was not going to fuck it up. By a hook or by crook, I was going to do well. But I credit things like this because when you focus, and we're really just powerful focusing mechanisms. That's it. When you focus on things that are going well in your life hands you more. When you focus on the crap going in life, you notice you get a little bit more crap. And that's all that vibrational stuff. So I make it a habit. And when I first started doing this, I could not believe, I felt like the wealthiest man in the world. You start to look around you and you see the abundance and the prosperity that you have. And the first few times I was doing this, I felt a little ashamed that it had all this stuff and I didn't know. And stuff from everything from maybe the obvious things like the trip, the home, the dog, but small things, small moments. And they begin to light up around you. And I'm a bit jealous if anyone is about to start this because they think it might be some good advice. It's really good advice, by the way. Because you're going to really get into that groove, and now I've been in it for so long that it's just my life. But I do that religiously, and when I don't do that on those days, I don't have the best day. I can comparatively, and it sounds maybe a little yippee skippy, I know, but if you start tuning your dial every day into a mode of appreciation, you will change your life. At night, it's a similar exercise, although at night I'm too tired, so I don't do a whole page of journaling, but I do just 5 bullet points. I would just write loving and then a bunch of things. And what that does, when you end your day in appreciation, the subconscious mind is in that zone. And then when you sleep in your slumber, you stay in that zone. Go to bed with worries on your mind, you wake up with worries on your mind. So what you're trying to do is take your state and keep it in a place of appreciation. Another thing I do is, if you're walking your dog or you're stuck on the subway or whatever, rampage of appreciation. Rampage of appreciation. If you can be walking your dog and look around at the things that are pleasing to you, the soft breeze, the touch of the sunshine on you, the father kissing his daughter goodbye over at that school over there, the anticipation you're feeling about the weekend. If you can do that for 17 seconds, 17 seconds is all you need. You change your set point of attraction. That's all you need to do. That's another process. There's a lot on ShaunProulx.com as well, but I've come to find that you've got to make the decision that this is my one life and I'm living it well, and I'm going to be responsible for my orbit. And part of responsible for my orbit for me as well, this one was a hard one to learn, was to be very in charge of the people that are allowed in it. There's soul suckers, there's emotional vampires, there aren't enough uplifters. You look around your orbit, there are probably some people who have to go. And it seems cold and harsh and stuff like that, but I'm not one to buy into, we've been friends since kindergarten stuff at all. You know what I mean? Sentimentalism, it's not a reason to keep someone who is a frenemy in your life.
Is this another situation where you this is where tuning into how you're feeling while you're being with somebody, into that inner GPS?
Absolutely.
Or while you're thinking about them, or while you're interacting with them?
Yeah, it's definitely how are you feeling, and if you're meeting someone for drinks all the time, and all they do, and we've all had this one, all they're doing is telling you what's going on in their life, their problems, their experience, their thoughts, their ideas, and then they leave, and you walk along, and you can honestly say that they know nothing more about you than they did before the coffee date, but you know so much more about them. Get rid of them. Get rid of them. They're just using you as a sounding board. They're not friends. There's no value there. Get rid of them. It doesn't have to be mean. Just don't see them again.
You're making me think of the idea that every relationship is an energy exchange.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
So we get together. You and I get together. We're relatively new to each other, but from the day that we got together for our first coffee lunch, we sat down, and I certainly hope you, and suspect you wouldn't be here if you didn't, leaving that meeting, I felt better than I did going in, and I wasn't feeling bad in the first place.
No, and recently we had drinks, and it was a tonic, and I'm not sure where I was in my day, but it was so fun. I had such a good time, and I left feeling good. You want the people in your life to make you feel good.
It's not too much to ask or expect of a relationship, of anything. In fact, that's what we all deserve.
Show me your friends. Show me the people in your life. I'll show you your future. You want to surround yourself with people who inspire you, who make you feel good, who are easy to be with, who I've had a divorce, I've had a marriage, I've had times in my life, I mentioned death threats, where I couldn't leave my apartment for 6 days. You find out fast in crises like these who your friends are, who the first responders are. And, I am a loyal guy, and I'm a good guy, and I'm a good friend, and I expect that from every relationship. And there are too many people, and you go back to Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain and you asked me at the beginning about, how might I relate to them? You don't know how many people, I learned this in a painful way over and over again, because sometimes I don't learn fast, or no, sometimes I believe in people too much. How, if you're useful to people, and being in media, I am, they don't necessarily do this in a conniving, deliberate way, but people are friendly and become your friend and treat you in a lovely way, as long as you can do something for them. Once you've got no use for them, to them, they don't show up for you anymore. Mm-hmm. And that's an example of why I guard my orbit, but also something that I'm sure Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain would have experienced in spades. It's very, very funny how when you've got some sort of measure of influence, how many people you think are your friends that are not.
Well, and also it occurs to me that path is a very, very lonely path. Mm-hmm. And the feeling that, in terms of keeping up with all of the pressures of position, and everybody has pressures of position. It doesn't matter if you're famous or not. It's pressure to provide, like you were saying earlier. It's pressure to show up. And we know that we are the sum of what we do and feel most of the time. Nobody's perfect. But anytime I hear about this, where I feel sad is that how lonely that must be, that people don't feel that they can, and maybe they did turn to someone for help. But when you're in that position, who do you turn to? How do you put up a cry for help? And I think if there's anything that I want to come out of our conversation today, it's that, people know that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to have to, to give yourself permission to be guarded when you need to, and be vigilant about where you spend your time, but also finding a safe place.
I will also add to what you're saying, that the people that you think in your life are strong, that you admire, are often the ones that are the loneliest and have no one to turn to, because everyone understands them to be strong and admirable. And I know, for example, one of my closest friends, stood up for me at my wedding. Friends wasn't really there for me when I got divorced, and we were having drinks, and she said, I don't think I was there for you the way I should have been. And she said, you just seem to have it all together, and you've got people, and you've got this. I thought you had this. I thought you had it. And so Bourdain and Spade didn't get to where they got to by being anything but strong, by exhibiting courage. So they're seen a certain way, and power, and another thing my friend said to me is, I thought you had your tribe. I said, you're a part of my tribe. You're my tribe. I don't have a big tribe, And when you've got that tribe, and everyone's thinking that you've got something, someone to turn to, but you don't, because no one's reaching out, because they don't reach out because they think someone else has reached out. You end up being very, very lonely. And I've experienced that an awful lot, because I am a strong person. I do have courage, but at the same time, I'm someone, and this is something a little shift, but I don't get invited to a lot of places because everyone thinks I've got something on the go. I lead a life that has a lot of travel, a lot of social media world. A little bit, I'm meeting all these exciting people. I'm having all these amazing people on my show. I'm with this celebrity, that person, and so it seems very. But I don't do anything on the weekends, and I if I want to reach out to someone and do something, I will. I like my own company. that's all good. But my phone does not ring off the hook. And so we have misconceptions about strong people. And
Absolutely.
yeah, we do.
I recall years after my whole the whole tragedy and trauma around the sweat lodge. I was living away from my family at the time, and after I moved back to Toronto, somebody in my family was really having a tough go, and of course I was there to support and had a lot of empathy. And I mean, the bottom was of that experience was very low for me, and for it to see someone that I loved in an equally difficult place was heartbreaking. And so I could have a lot of empathy, not just because I'm empathic, but because I've had the experience. And he turned to me and he was like, "But Laura, you don't get it. You're so strong. You got through everything. I'm embarrassed coming to you. You got through everything that you needed to do." And I just looked at him, and I can't even imagine the look on my face. I was like agape.
Yeah.
And he was like, "What?" And I was like, "Oh my goodness, you have no idea the amount of support that I needed." And just because you weren't there physically,
Yeah.
it was much tougher to lean on you and the tribe here during that time, because I needed intensive support.
Yeah.
So, the grass is always greener. It is, but there's also cultivated perception and what I don't go out on social media and post, "Oh, I'm having a horrible day," because I can't stand it when other people do. And that's not the way to get meaningful support.
That's how I operate as well. But, I have a friend and someone who's so dear to her had a stroke and some heart attacks and is in a coma and is going to be in a terrible place for quite some time. She's a very strong woman, but I've checked in on her several times this week, and that's just the way I operate. And so, back to things like divorce, there's no bitterness about it, but the people that did not think to even say anything, reach out, some of them were at the wedding, didn't even call. Going back to what I said, that's not good enough. And while I see them and I'm happy to see them, I ran into the bar, I'd have drinks with them, stuff like that. I do not spend my precious time with them anymore, because you have to open your life up to allow the new people in. It's a bit of an edit that way, and I don't wish them poorly at all. There's no resentment. It's just like we're in different places, we operate different ways, and the beauty is that slowly but surely, who is Shirley? Slowly but surely. Amazing people come into your life that are a match, and you can look at them and go, and pursue you a bit. And I've made some really quality friends that teach me things, that lead, and that check in on you, and that care, and that exchange ideas, and that appreciate you and don't want anything from you.
Shaun, do you consider, you used one of my words there, you used lead. Do you consider yourself a leader?
Yes.
What makes you a leader?
I think I come by it naturally. There's not a way. My mom used to say when I was a little boy, "Shaun, stop bossing all the kids around and telling them how to play." It's just, I think that there are people who lead and there are people who follow, and some people come into it naturally, and I don't know any other way. The leader has to assume the most risk. Anthony Bourdain, Kate Spade. The leader has to be the first person on the dance floor, and that's just, I'm that guy. But I did say recently, potential business partners, about something, and it was my idea, my concept. But after we were all excited about it, I said, it's important to me that you understand that I can't be the leader on this. What happens next? I need you guys to decide and let me just participate as 1/3 not to keep the ball rolling. But I'm a leader.
What do you think are the most important qualities of somebody in a position of leadership?
Intention, that they know what their intention is. Vision, that they can see the end result, that they have a vision, and that vision matches the intention. Courage, and to make sure people understand what courage is. Courage isn't something that you're born with or that you have. It's what you get when you've done what scared you. You did it on the other side. You don't go into it with courage. You go into it scared and you come out, and then you do that. You can do that. You're a leader. And the ability to get people on side, to see the vision, to understand why the vision will benefit them, and to inspire them, and the ability to be alone and be lonely. Because it's those who are led that are out having the good time. There's a great moment in Madonna Truth or Dare after one of her Blonde Ambition concerts, and everyone's out partying, and she's alone. Madonna's alone, and no one is, because she's Madonna. Of course, she's got company. She's busy. She's not. She's alone. No one has thought to bring her, and she knows she's got a business to go back and run, and she's in charge of tomorrow night's concert. She's gone back and done that.
I saw that movie when it first came out, and I remember that moment clearly.
Mm-hmm. I saw that movie, and that was my very first crush. It was on the dancer Slam, who had the long dark hair, and he looked like a Calvin Klein obsession model. And I'm friends with one of Madonna's other Blonde Ambition dancers, and they did a follow-up to Blonde Ambition, and Slam came out as HIV positive in the new documentary, and it turned out he just found out he was HIV when Blonde Ambition started. The tour started, just he was a baby. And so I got in touch with him through my friend Kevin, and flew to New York, and I met him, and I interviewed him for my show about his journey with HIV. And it was for World AIDS Day special. To have the joy of meeting my first crush from the Madonna Blonde Ambition Day, hanging out. That's the best of the best of the best when you decide not to follow everybody's rules, not to measure success by everyone else's standards, the house, the family. Now, if this is success for you, that's fine. But if it's not, go out and do the stuff, because what I've noticed is that life rewards you with these moments that I call signposts, or pats on the back, or the path lighting up, where it's just saying to you, you're doing a really good job. I get choked up. You're doing a good job. You are on the right path. Keep going. And I've had so many of those moments. And they mean nothing to anybody, but they mean so much to me. When I would have a childhood where in high school I was bullied so badly, and then I would come home and my dad's alcoholism was always in full force. And the bridge between those two, the moment of peace, was The Young and the Restless. And in 2008, I found myself on the set of The Young and the Restless. And there I am in Genoa City with Captain Chancellor on the couch, Sue Jack Abbott on the couch. I'm friends with Michelle Stafford, who plays played Phyllis. And to have that as part of my life is what you get when you do life by your own rules. And talking about Bourdain and getting into that mindset when you're so unhappy that the only thing that will make you happy is ending your life, is you came here to be happy. And I think that we measure happiness incorrectly. Bourdain and Spade had fame and money and glamour and power and all the right things, so that we're all going, why would they commit suicide? I don't think that's how you measure success. I think you measure success by understanding that we have this now moment. Like this now moment when Laura Tucker and Shaun Proulx were talking, this is all that's real right now. That's it. The past is over. Future hasn't happened. If you're living in the past, you're going to feel depressed. If you're living in the future, you're going to feel anxious. So you have just this now moment. And if you check in as you hear this and ask yourself, and your heart will tell you, am I happy in this now moment? And if the answer is frequently yes, that's success. If it's not, you have to start making the changes in your life, small ones, and you have to stop giving a flying fuck what the people around you think and living your life for them. Because life is just a string of this now moments. It's just a string of moments together. And if you can spend most of that time saying that I am happy, then you have lived a life of success, and you won't go anywhere near the place that Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain had to go. I'm very passionate about that, because I think we all have the right to feel that if we died today, we would be with no regrets and satisfied. And I can say that I've lived a life beyond my fondest dreams. And it's my fondest wish that anybody listening to this would experience that as well. I get emotional about this stuff because we get one life, and what a shame, because tomorrow's not a promise, to waste a minute of it.
Shaun, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your heart with us.
You're most welcome.
And first of all, I love you.
I love you too.
I gotta tell you, I love you. And I love your courage for coming on here, for being so incredibly real, for demonstrating the strength of vulnerability.
Thank you.
And I hope that anyone listening today who can answer yes most of the time, that you can walk away with a deep sense of gratitude. And if the answer is no most of the time, that you will reach out to somebody, no matter how isolated that you may feel in this at times, in moments. There are people who want to hear your story and who want to share and support. And I think what I'll do, given the turn that this conversation had, in the show notes, I'm going to put some numbers for some helplines. I'm going to put a link to the article you wrote this morning. It's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
And I want to encourage anyone who is listening today and is moved by this to leave a comment on the episode and start the conversation. You're looking at, we're looking at each other, but you're listening to two people who have made some difficult choices in our lives in order to be able to say yes most of the time.
And I also want to add, if there's that middle zone of people who, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't say yes. They feel okay, but they would like to feel better. Just start making some changes. You don't have to wait till you're wanting to call for help or reach out. Don't let it get to that point. Even if you are in that need, do it. But make your life better. Make your life better. And I feel so blessed. That's, I think, why I get overcome, because you start talking about the small gems in my life, and everything. You can be and do and have anything. That I know for sure. And I'm your proof. And I just would encourage that for everybody. There's nobody that deserves the struggle. Everybody deserves the joy. We came here for the joy.
Shaun Proulx, thank you very much for joining me here. And thank you for sharing your soul with us today.
Mm-hmm. Peace.
I don't know about you, but I was moved by Shaun's candor and vulnerability, and that's what happens when authenticity is coming straight from the heart. If you believe others will benefit from listening to this interview, I invite you to follow the link at the bottom of the episode. If you're listening on iTunes or other podcast applications, follow that link back to our website where you can share, and then follow the links over to shaunproulx.com where you can read the article he wrote this week and explore his thought revolution movement. When I was editing this episode, I was struck by a few things that need attention in my life. Living in alignment isn't just about making dramatic changes when you're at the end of your rope. It's a daily practice. If you would like a way to get started, I invite you to download the Free Your Inner Guru guidebook. It's a collection of questions and exercises that I use, and I give it to my coaching clients as a guide for introspection. You can download it at lauratucker.com/guidebook. Thank you for listening to this episode of Free Your Inner Guru. I know that you have a lot of choice where you receive your inspiration, and I want you to know that I don't take that for granted. Until next time, this is Laura Tucker signing off for Free Your Inner Guru.